Hello, Mavs fans. Welcome to Pod Maverick After Dark. This is Kirk Henderson. You are joined, as always, by Josh Bowe. We're here. It is Thursday night, a little after 9 o'clock. Mavericks played another early game, this time a TNT game against the Boston Celtics, which they came out and shocked the Celtics, 127 to 120. Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing good, just like we all said, right?
You did.
Just trade that franchise cornerstone, and then you're a contender again.
Lead off with your shit talk about this today, because you were just ruthless in the Mavs Moneyball Slack.
No, I know, because I think this afternoon I was just kind of like, I'm just getting this feeling that this game is going to be close because everyone is so the odds are so overwhelmingly stacked. No Anthony Davis. They're playing the Celtics, who they never play well in the last few years since the Celtics have become like a super team with KP. It was just more of a hunch. I just thought the Celtics were going to overlook Dallas tonight. I thought this was going to be a trap game for them, and boy, was it ever.
Now, the Celtics are an odd bunch. I sort of think if they're choosing to hit a rough streak, rough streak relative for a team that's 36-16. I'm just going to go take a look at their schedule and see like when kind of these losses. Yeah, these losses they've played. So obviously they won 4 in a row before tonight, but for a team that's won 16 games, a lot of them have been since like mid-December and sort of like that January-December lull. And, we've seen it with the Mavericks. When the Mavericks have kicked off, you really want to play. You want to be heading into the postseason playing your best basketball. Celtics couldn't find their footing today. Mavericks came out, punched them early, kind of kept punching, and they got contributions from all across the board. It was a really like entertaining game to watch. I do want to talk about the TNT broadcast because I just can't help myself. Klay Thompson has 23 points in the first half, looking like, old school Klay, running all over the place. He only finishes with 2 in the second, which means the Mavericks were able to keep the pressure on from everyone else, because Klay was really like they were double teaming him at points early in the middle.
They were double teaming him at half court. Like did they think he was Luka? Did they forgot Luka get traded? And they see a white guy in a Mavericks jersey with not a white. I mean, sorry, Klay has his dad is obviously not white, but just a light skin. Did they see a light skinned guy at half court with the ball in his hands and they thought it was Luka? I don't know what's going on there. I don't think Klay's ever been double teamed like that with the ball in his hands since 2016.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Well. So this is one of those fun games. They get up ahead, they get out early in halftime, and you're watching halftime. And this is where I got to talk about the TNT guys, all right? So the TNT guys made 2 big observations, and one of them that I think was absolutely on point, and the other was so stupid, I was like screaming at my television as I was eating dinner during halftime. The first one was that, after a trade deadline, when things are like locked in and there's no more uncertainty, a team with a big that has had a big trade should have a lot of energy, a lot of juice, because there's some finality as to what's coming next. And I think that was what we saw with the Mavericks tonight in a big way tonight, where they're, the ball had energy, ball was moving around. It was really fun to watch. The second thing that they did, which was killing me, and this is the TNT crew, Kenny Smith said, well, the reason they haven't run any of this offense that we're seeing in the 6 weeks since Luka Doncic got hurt was that kid didn't want to install any of it because Luka could come back at any point, which is factually that's a lie. Lying to people like in straight face is pissing me off. They were doing the really cool thing. It's a really amazing thing basketball players do called hit shots.
They don't watch the games. Shots. This was never a bigger example of these national guys don't watch the games than that stuff tonight. They don't watch the games.
And that's fine. It's just it's an annoying narrative where it's like, if you want to say that the team looks better and the ball is going to move more now that Luka Doncic is gone, I'm going to grant you that. Okay, that's not. But the fact is, they've ran a Luka Doncic offense without Luka Doncic for 6 fucking weeks.
I know. Also, they were doing this stuff when Luka was healthy. Like, that was the big thing for this season. His usage was down. His touches were down. His time of possession was down. Like, this isn't a new thing. They've been trying to wean themselves off of Luka ball for most of the season, and it was working. And when Luka came back from the second, when he started the season didn't look good, but then when he missed a week for his wrist sprain, which, was a little bit of a reconditioning effort for him, they looked awesome. And Luka had that 45 point triple double against the Warriors, and his usage and time of possession was like lower than normal in that game. Like he still got his numbers. Like they were figuring it out.
We're going to do a thing. The next motherfucker that tells me to move on, I'm going to slap in the mouth. Like, what is wrong with you people? Basketball is a huge part of my life. I'm going to talk about the things that are important to me, including Luka Doncic. Like, I move on. We're talking about him within the context of the basketball game.
This is only their second game since the trade. I think we're allowed to talk about the impact of the trade after 2 games.
These idiots talking about it to me, and like really within the context of this game. The Celtics whittled it down to 11 points right before halftime. And you're like, God, like, what are we doing? Like, it's the Celtics. Like, keep your foot on the gas. And then third quarter, the Mavericks came out and throttled the Celtics. I mean, that was, to me, the third quarter run was more impressive than the first quarter run. Granted, they scored 5 more points, but the how many times do things die in the third quarter? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you were waiting for the Celtics to come out of halftime and be like, oh shit, we got to play for real. And you were waiting for that run, and it never happened.
And what I found like really enjoyable, at least for me, and granted, guys, Kyrie Irving was ass once again in the first quarter and in the first half. And then in the third quarter and fourth quarter, Kyrie can't play. Kyrie hit some big buckets. And it was just nice to see. So the Mavericks keep the heat on. We had some great plays from Dante Exum, who got team high plus 29. We're gonna have to talk about it.
Where was that Exum last June against these Celtics?
Well, it's interesting that you asked that because I was actually I thought he played such good defense on Jason Tatum. Like he drew a couple of offensive fouls, at least one that I saw. Like, and Tatum does like the shoulder lead. That drives me crazy.
He's got huge shoulders, so he's very broad.
This is an amazingly ignorant comment, and I'm going to address it. It's a huge part of life for us, but people like you that go on social media with hateful words is the reason a lot of dumb fans go to home games with hate. My brother, if anyone goes to basketball games because of things I have said on social media, really go through my comments. Have I threatened harm against Nico Harrison? Have I said he was dumb repeatedly? Yes. Said he was dumb repeatedly because, and this is very important, they traded Luka Doncic. I'm going to say things which are true in the context of which that they're said. So accusing me of riling up fans when the Dallas Mavericks traded Luka Doncic is going to drive me crazy. I'm not interested in that sort of commentary. You can unfollow me. I am not responsible for other people's actions. Please stop. Seriously. Stuff's offensive.
I think the fan base would be plenty riled up even if you didn't say a word for
me. Little old me. I have 20,000 followers, like 500 of which are active on Twitter. Like I desperately need people to get a grip. Like blame the people who are responsible for this. Don't talk about me. My God. Anyway, the fourth quarter comes along and the Mavericks just sort of, I don't know, like they took their foot off the gas because what do you think?
And then the Celtics backups came in and they actually gave a shit because they were the backups and they're like, oh, we get to play.
And they were fun.
They were trying really hard. Like, let's be real. The Celtics their starters did not give an A+ effort through the first 3 quarters. And then those backups came in and were like, this is our chance. And they put the screws on them.
Well, and how annoying,
defense a little tight.
How annoying is it that Kevin Pritchard and Sam Hauser are considered Celtic scrubs?
That's insane. I know. They're so deep.
They were so deep. And I kept looking at Hauser and I'm like, is that Gordon Hayward? Like my brain was off kilter tonight.
No, I think didn't Hayward worth 30 in Boston too when he was there for a little bit, maybe? Or I can't remember.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, I think obviously you can't take away a ton in terms of like tactics because I think the Mavericks had some perhaps unsustainable jump shooting. They were 15 of 33 from 3, 45.5%. The box score has it marked down that they shot 17 of 30 in the mid-range, 30 mid-range attempts will be by far the most attempts they have in a single game this season. My guess is that the scorekeeper maybe gave some of those paint shot, like those shots near the free throw line that could go either way for that zone. Maybe they marked them as mid-range and not as in the paint. You know what I mean? Because I'm looking at the shot plot. Like if you go to shot zone on the box score, yeah, it says they shot 30 mid-range attempts. And then when you look at the actual plot where they put exactly where all the shots are,
Yep.
I don't know if it was purely 30. Like a lot of them are coming right around the free throw line, which are going to be, they might give you some for the paint. They might give it to you as a mid-range. But either way, they still shot a lot of non-layups, I'll say. And they made a high volume of non-layups, which I don't know how sustainable it is. You know, they had a good jump shooting night, which helps. That's
fine. Well, I mean, Kid was talking at timeouts. Kid was talking in timeouts about touching the paint, and
they did do that.
That is an emphasis that I think is carry, like that is a carryover like thing that you can take away from this game. That I think is always an emphasis, but it's a good reminder and just to see with the new group of guys. This is a good comment that I think worth addressing. Pencognito says Hardy not getting any playing time the last couple of games is certainly interesting. I thought so too.
I think Kid has given him a chance, and I think he's ran out of patience for him.
Ooh, good take.
Right? I mean, he's given him a lot of chances. He's probably now break class in case of emergency. He seems to freaking love Max Christie, that's for sure. Did not take long for him to trust, get that guy to earn his trust, but also now 30 points in 2 games.
Well, he's going to be like the fan favorite, not like a fan favorite.
No,
he's going to be the fan favorite. 21 years old. All the Lakers guys, it's funny. If anybody stayed up till 4 a.m. with me at my ridiculous night of podcast when Luka was traded, my friend Anthony Irwin, love him to pieces, but the Laker fan just can't read the room, and he wanted to come on the show. And he did. And he's like, you guys are going to love Max Christie. And I'm just like, get the fuck out of here, man.
And then he followed up the next day. He was like, I wish the Lakers could have done that trade without involving Max Christie. And it's like, motherfucker, you got Luka. Shut the hell up.
But I mean, so you back away from the Luka element or the AD element and you see, he's apparently not gotten what year is he in?
This is his 3rd year, and he was a 2nd-round pick.
So he's not gotten a lot of playing time.
No, this is his first big kind of minute season.
And this is a really like hello, let me introduce myself kind of moment. I mean, I made a like a little off kilter comment during the game where I said like, this is the kind of player I'd buy the jersey for my kid. And yes is the answer to what I'm going to do. Like he's fun.
His body type reminds me, not saying his game reminds me of this, but his body type reminds me of Josh Howard.
Yes, you're the 3rd person to make that reference to me today.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Oh, cool.
I mean,
that makes it even better.
I check my DMs like a lunatic, and my friend Jordan sent me that message, and he's like, "Hey, this is really something." And like my favorite play, so he had a drive from the left wing where he does kind of a weird, awesome Euro step and gets maybe a floating 12-footer just outside the lane, and he misses the shot and gets his own rebound. And like that's the Josh Howard that I remember. Now I like just the blue collar workman buckets that break a team down over time.
And then the other part is he just has impossibly long arms for like a 6'6".
Apparently a 6'9" wingspan.
I believe it. I would believe it's 7'2" or whatever. Like he's got those arms that are like, it looks like they're like hanging past his knees. Like and that was Howard had a huge wingspan for his size as a wing player.
Well, and we're gonna circle back to this in the second half of the show, but the Mavericks made a trade, and we're getting pointed out in the comments. That shout out to Jared for Max Christie's in the first year of a 4-year, $32 million deal. The Mavericks also traded for why is my mind blanking? Caleb Martin, who is also in the first year of a 4-year deal that's at about $35 million. So just, we'll circle back and finish in the game because I do want to talk about a couple more guys. In terms of if you're removing the fact that Nico traded Luka Doncic and just moving on to talk like purely basketball terms, like what the vision is, 6'5" wings and guards that have long arms and can defend is not a bad goal. Is what
I know, and that's why I think up until the Luka trade, we were all kind of on board for the vision, right? Like,
well, because I mean, the Mavericks did have a long rangey guys, but this is more, and all the guys all three guys, Anthony Davis, and the other two are workmen, like guys that put in the work, and that is very like Christie's known for being a gym rat, and that sort of thing is, and Martin is as well, working his way into the league in a real big way. Just it's just something to kind of consider as we move forward and continue to talk about this game. It is I'm just for my own sake, and this speaks back to kind of Eric's comment in the beginning when he told me to move on. It is like probably for the next 12 to 15 games, we're going to have to, like, as we talk about this within the context of the trade, we're gonna have to talk about like basketball emotions, etc. Like, and just kind of put it into different boxes, because like there's feelings and then there's what we're seeing on the court. This win, I think, is fairly important, at least in terms of resetting elements of that narrative.
yeah, absolutely.
Had they lost this game, they come home to play the Rockets, they would have lost 4. They would have been on a 4-game losing streak against the Rockets, and the Rockets are just a freaking buzzsaw right now. And so it's just,
and then it's the first home game since Luke has been traded. Who knows what the environment,
feelings,
like.
And we'll talk. Yeah. And so anyway, this was a nice way to go. I did want to mention the Najee Marshall game again. He was 7 of 9 from 2-point range. And he's probably a significant number of those mid-range misses makes that you're talking about. Absolutely. And when the Mavericks were humming, earlier in the year, kind of in the probably between games like 20 and 40, when they,
before Luka
got hurt, and then a little bit after Luka got hurt, because they won some games, like they won the game against Phoenix. This is only their 7th win since Luka Doncic got hurt at Christmas. It's a lot of losses over that period of time. But when the Mavericks looked reasonably fun on offense, him being involved and active in the offense is important. So, and useful.
I wanted to add on to that, because I think that's, to me, the Najee thing is the one big sustainable hope thing that I can take away from this game, because it wasn't just what he did. And I feel like he shoots like 100% on every shot that he takes that ends up with him lying on the floor. Like, anytime he takes one of those push floaters near the free throw line and he ends up on his ass, I feel like he doesn't miss those. But I thought the way they used him, I mean, he was a pick and pop guy tonight. Like, he screened on the ball. It felt like he set more on ball screen. I don't have the data, and I don't have access to this data because we don't have access to the Synergy Sports, but it felt like he set more on ball screens tonight than he has like in the last 2 months. And now, granted, he's been sick and out of the lineup a lot of that, but he was setting a ton of on ball screens and popping to the 3-point line. He made one pick and pop 3, and then I think that was his only pick and pop 3, but he still kept popping out to the 3-point line, and the Celtics kept kind of giving him space. And instead of shooting, which, on one hand, you don't want to be hesitant and you want to shoot those shots that the defense is giving you, because, sometimes the attempts matter almost just as much as the makes in terms of threatening a defense. But every time he got the ball swung to him on those pick and pop opportunities that he didn't shoot a 3, he was going with conviction and confidence right into the paint, right into the middle of the floor. And he just was torturing the Celtics help defense with those floaters, because they were giving him that. And he was like, okay, I'll take it. Like, and he was being confident. He wasn't holding the ball up. The ball wasn't stopping, wasn't sticking. It was screen on ball, pop out to the wing, catch, and go, which is exactly what he needs to be doing. And if the Mavericks want to survive on offense until, they get Anthony Davis back on Saturday, but they're still going to have to find some ways to score, because their spacing is going to get, even when Davis comes back and they get some more scoring in their lineup, their spacing is going to be weird. It just is. It's going to be weird. And we
need to see what they do, because like today's game, like the players and lineups that they ran are very different than what they've already said they want to do.
Yes, because that's the one thing I'm curious about too. Because they're going to go big.
They want to play like jumbo ball. Like PJ is going to be the odd man out, which feels a weird thing to say since he's been kind of the anchor during the Luka thing, and as Kyrie's dealt with back stuff. But if AD wants to play the 4 and Kid wants to have 2 bigs out, that means PJ either has to play the 3 or he has to play backup 4. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's the one thing is Najee did such a great job screening on the ball and attacking off the catch, but he did a lot of that there was only 1 big on the floor when he did, or none when they did small ball. So are they going to have the opportunities for Najee to attack like that when they're playing Davis and a center for 20 or so minutes a game? I would imagine is probably what they're thinking. They can do it when Anthony's at the 5, absolutely, and you play Najee at the 4 or the 3. But yeah, that's something I'm curious about. I feel like they have survived a lot of this Luka-less stretch by embracing some of that small ball spacing, and that's about to go.
The space is going to go away, and
that's going to go. So they got to figure that out.
PJ is so useful driving and doing weird stuff. And granted, what's interesting about the ideal new Mavericks, let's throw Lively in the mix, and we have a lot. It's going to be a while before we see Lively with this group, anyways. It doesn't really matter.
He's not playing. He's not going to be back till like April, if that.
Like Lively and AD can stretch the floor, they just don't. And that's kind of the question of what's going to happen. And I'm looking forward to seeing, when that will happen in the short term. And ultimately doesn't matter because, Lively's out for at least another month plus. So we'll see where we go from there. Let's take a break real quick. Thank you so much for hanging out with us guys here. As you guys know, we have a official sponsor. It is a company called Body Spec. If you head to the show notes and click the link to the bodyspec.com link, it will take you to a webpage where you can learn a little bit more about what a DEXA scan is. That's what they provide. It's a full body composition scan, helps you understand what's going on with your body. As a guy that sits at a desk an awful lot, yet still tries to stay in good shape. And now that I'm 40, any kind of additional information that helps me know like where I am, I find in terms of staying in shape can be really helpful. And Josh and I have both done this. It's a great way. It gives you like pages upon pages of information. It's a really easy process. We're talking less than 5 minutes. There are Body Spec facilities and mobile facilities all throughout the Metroplex. It is a really great thing that you can do for yourself. If you use the promo code all caps PODMAVS45 at checkout, you can get $15 off. It's a nice gift. It's a way to see where you are. If you're 3-4 weeks into a New Year's resolution, maybe you can see where things are going. And, it's something that I highly recommend. And again, guys, if you want to support our show, this is a way you can do so directly while also helping yourself. Again, head to the show notes, click the bodyspec.com link and use the code PODMAVS45 at checkout. We will be right back after inserting some more ads to talk about a few more things. Okay, we are back. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you would like to subscribe to the show, go ahead. We're going to have a Mavs party tonight where if you guys have takes you want to get off, and then we can talk probably for, I can only really want to go for an additional half hour or so tonight. The 4 hours on Saturday night and Sunday morning is still taking its toll here on a Thursday. All right, really big win, important win just for momentum. The Mavericks have some digging to do, and I'm just you got to start somewhere.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like we've kind of. Are you ready to? Is there anything else about this game you wanted to talk about? Because I know
we probably could. It was a fun game. I mean, we gushed over Max Christie. Like I shout out to my guy Kessler Edwards. That's kind of my parting shot.
Hey, Dinwiddie, man, your new favorite player.
God, he hit a couple of toilet bowl threes. Ones that like spin around, and I'm just like, sure. Why not?
Your new favorite player probably had the best response of anyone. Well, him and Kyrie. Actually, I mean, I know this is kind of veering away from the game. Dinwiddie was great. Exum was awesome. I mean, everyone that played was actually quite good except for Omax, that's not fair to him. Like, just whatever. But speaking of Dinwiddie, and like I was saying, I was about to say he probably said the best thing about this trade, about the Luka trade, and then I realized like, no, Kyrie actually was really good. Oh wait, no, like all the players have handled the way that they have handled this Luka trade. It has been demonstrably better than the people that actually are responsible for the trade. I think it's been
great. PJ,
I think what they've been saying to the media, the Spencer quote, the Gafford's quote, the Kyrie quotes, and I know it doesn't matter. Like what sound bites players give to the media, like that doesn't change anything.
Nope.
Doesn't mean any, like it doesn't really, in the grand scheme of things, I don't know how much it means. But when you're dealing with a very fragile fan base right now that is, at the end of the rope, to put it lightly, after this news, I thought it was commendable, and I thought it showed the maturity of these guys, the way that they kind of understood the moment and reacted properly. And I just thought that was nice.
I did too. One thing that I think is good is, and again, the TNT guys talked about this a little bit, but you see the players and shoot around, you see the stuff that's on social media. There's nothing else to worry about right now. So they move forward. AD already talking about how he's over it, etc., things like that. Like, these guys don't linger because they can't, and they shouldn't, to a certain, like, what's done is done, and it's their job. And I think one thing that's important is, like, some of these guys do have pre-existing relationships, so it's like, I'm not going to sit here and be I'm trying to think how to phrase this, because I've gotten lots of emails, lots of calls, texts, direct messages of people who are super upset. But it's like, if you are a Mavericks fan and you see these guys being happy, I think it is okay to still, like, in fact, I encourage it. You should support all the players and the team going forward. You are allowed to hold two competing ideas in your mind right now. It is possible. It is possible to be very upset about this trade and enjoy the basketball that's being played and look forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there was a sentiment, and especially after that Cleveland game, which is the way I described it, was
the Cleveland game sucks. We're down.
Everyone the way I described that Cleveland game, I think I said in the last podcast, was everyone on that bench, the coaches and the players, looked like they just got off the last helicopter out of Vietnam. And I think there was a fear that the trade had kind of maybe detonates the locker room. And I think we talked about it in our Mavs Moneyball Slack. I think me and Jordan Brodus especially were kind of on this side of, I think I think it'll be okay. Like, there was definitely some doomerism, which is fine. I'm not trying to critique the doom. Like, you could be a doomer about this stuff because you're well within your right, because this was a crazy situation to happen. But I think there was some people that thought the bottom was going to fall out in terms of, like, effort, like they were going to lose the locker room and the guys were going to, like, almost protest on the floor themselves. And I never thought that was going to happen. I don't know how many games they're going to win, but I never thought that the effort and the professionalism was going to come into play.
Right. Because if that's the case, that means there are sort of systemic problems beyond personnel. It means
that's like coaching.
You stop playing for the coach. And so it's like, for as much as we occasionally, want to throw kid into the ocean,
this is the one thing he's good at, for sure.
Nothing to indicate that he has lost any element of this locker room whatsoever. So I was, I could see both things, but it's also, it's a job. There's finality to what's going on now. They know, like, there's a very direct goal for this Mavericks team. It's to get into the playoffs. I mean, right now they're sitting here.
They're right in 10th, I think.
They're right in 10th. No, they're in 8th. They bumped up to 8th. I mean, granted, there's teams playing tonight, so there's, like, still stuff that could suss itself out because Denver and Orlando's playing. I don't really think anything else is going to change in the West.
Golden State's playing tonight, and they're currently down 13 to the Lakers, and Golden State right behind them.
Golden State's 25-25, and they're in 11th place. So it would keep them it would basically give enough cushion. The Mavericks are kind of heading towards the top of the heap of teams that are looking to get out of the play-in. is where you are right now.
And the one unfortunate thing is the two teams chasing them, Golden State and San Antonio, they brought in some reinforcements at the deadline, so they're gonna have some competition to hold off to make sure they stay out of the play-in or to get out of it.
No, there's a lot, and there's a lot of work to be done, and when there's work to be done, that can allow, and we've seen this Mavericks team do this 2 out of the last 3 years, like, a singularity of focus can really allow for some things. Now, I think moving into things, I'm very. You get a lot of comments about how the Mavericks are too deep at most positions, and you're still star reliant. Like Kyrie Irving goes down, we have problems. Like that's an okay thing to say out loud. I think they need to be gentle with Kyrie's usage. They need to be, obviously
He played 40 minutes tonight.
freak things can occur, but they need to be cognizant of that because he is a smaller guard. You don't want to burn him. He's both your key playmaker and your X factor now.
He's the offensive engine of the team.
Anthony Davis is gonna be the guy who comes and goes, and he has huge games. Like his last game against Charlotte, he had like 43 and 22 or something outrageous. And then he has these games where you're like, how did that guy have 16 points and 7 rebounds? What happened? So and that's not a criticism. That's just the history of him playing basketball. So we're gonna have good games, we're gonna have bad games. But I think that the argument can be that there's enough pretty darn good players in this team to hopefully pick up the slack most nights. And I can see that argument. I can.
Yeah,
so
I can too, for sure.
Did we briefly touched on the Caleb Martin, or is it which Martin?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, didn't we talk about it a little bit last podcast?
I don't remember. When did it happen?
Did it happen after the Cavs game? No, it happened. It happened before the Philly game because that was the thing, because they were playing Philly. It happened before the Philly game. We talked about it.
So it's at least worth revising. It's worth revising.
Do you want to talk about what happened? We haven't talked about
I want to talk about like the news element of it. So the Mavericks traded for an injured player, and
they didn't know how injured he was.
They didn't know how injured he was, so they got a 2030 draft pick, second round draft pick, a different one, because they had Phillies. They gave it back. Was that for this year? I don't remember which pick.
20, yeah. The Philly pick that they gave back, the Mavericks gave back, is for this draft.
And so they got a 2030 second round pick from Philly. Did I read that?
They had the opportunity to avoid the trade because he failed his physical, technically.
Okay, so to basically push it, they could have avoided the trade.
They could have avoided with the trade, yes.
And so Kevin O'Connor said this. We're going to publish something on it in the morning. Kevin O'Connor said on his stream that like this with that trade was definitely the Mavericks were looking to do Quentin Richardson a solid because they probably weren't going to pay him. So this is like an agent. He had said something to the fact that like this is a bit of an agent favor getting him to Philly where he can have an opportunity to get paid. Because the Mavericks were probably not going to go over whichever apron they're near to keep him. So I thought that was interesting. Now they get back an older player, slightly my friend Spike Eskin described his shot as pain every time you watch him shoot, where it doesn't ever look like it's going to go in, but sometimes does. Which
is it just funky form, or is he like got a really slow release? I can't remember.
Funky, yeah, I think funky. So that was a fun one. So I was asking him some questions because like I just didn't have Martin takes. Like I'm just like you look at a deal and you're like anything under $10 million for multiple years, you're doing that for a reason. The Mavericks are accumulating kind of media. Like these are at this point, it sounds weird to say out loud. An $8 million a year contract is inexpensive.
It's a bargain.
So it's because the cap thing keeps going up. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think what we said last time, like what I said was they're like the same tier of player. Like I think Grimes is younger and better, but not overwhelmingly so that it looks out of place when you consider the cost control of Caleb. But yeah, him being hurt for like 2 to 3 more weeks, like they need bodies. Like that's tough. And giving away that really valuable Philly second rounder, that's weird. Even getting back a second rounder in 2030, which is like, yippee, like Nico's not even going to probably be around to make that draft pick anyway. Right. So
the more you read Nico's comments and hear like kind of read everything in aggregate where it's like I posted a photo of this, the Mavericks like draft pick situation after 2020. So 2028, 2029, 2030 are horrifying. Now that's not right now. And if you don't want to talk about that right now, I don't think we should because we're in the middle of the season. Just know that it's out there.
They got this year and they got next year, and then after that, it's like say goodbye to your draft.
Well, teams. Look, the Nets at certain points look like they didn't have any options either, and then all of a sudden they get all their picks back. Like teams can do stuff, but you have to be like actually seeking out proactive. So it's, to me, if I'm looking at this roster, I think Nico Harrison, if he is interested in being here, it's here for this season, it's here for 2025-26, and it's here for 2026-27, like 2.5 more years. Like, and he has said things along those lines. So that's not criticism. That's like the one thing you can say about Nico Harrison right now, if above all things, he tells the truth to a fault.
I know.
Your mic just went out.
Oh, can you not hear me?
Oh, you can, but it sounds like it sounds like an unplugged. So I'll talk for a second and you take a look. So anyways, that was one of those things that we're just sort of looking ahead on, because I think we're trying to get to playoffs this year, but we're Mavs fans. We're going to be here for years. So we're not going anywhere 2 or 3 years. I'm still going to be here. Maybe, hopefully, potentially.
Test. Am I good now?
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. A lot better. All right, and then
you want to talk to the thing that makes you mad that we?
Well, I'm a little less heated on it now, but I do.
Oh, you had the fire when we started. I told you not
maybe I'll pick it back up.
Pick it back up. I'm
irritated that this becomes news, because I think when you put some things out into the world, it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, let me be very clear.
The Barbra Streisand effect.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me be very clear here. Social media, Twitter in particular, is not at all representative of much of anything. Okay? It is the wellspring for takes. It is an important upstream thing for culture and for what the news of the day is going to be. And so when Allie LaForge goes on TV and said the Mavericks are what did she say here? I need to go find this, because this is just I need to get this right, because I don't want to say something that's not.
Yeah, you need to get this one right.
She said before the game, one big concern, though, is the safety of the players, the front office, going back to Dallas. We hope fans make the wise decision and remember this is a game and lives are far more important. That is a direct response to things seen on Twitter and social media. Let me be clear. We did this the other night on this podcast. We did this after the Sixers show. Don't share Nico Harrison's address. Don't tweet Nico Harrison's address. Don't be psychopaths. That's pretty simple. Pretty simple rule. But people on Twitter are psychopaths. And I think by amplifying this on television and then in the Dallas Morning News, you are creating a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy here, where you are putting ideas out there that no one had ever thought of before. And I don't like that. Okay? I don't like that. And it frustrates me. Because here's the thing, it also pivots the attention away from the simple fact that Nico Harrison traded a player who could potentially go down as one of the best players in NBA history for Anthony Davis and Max Christie. Like, I don't want to continuously harp on this trade till the end of time. I think we're going to, the same way we did the Brunson thing, because you're going to be reminded of it always. But this trade has been universally panned. The only people who think this is a good trade are real hoopers who don't like Luka. And that's just sort of the way it goes.
Yeah, it's bad when it's crossed the Rubicon of like mainstream. Like they're making jokes about it at the Grammys. Webster's Merriam Dictionary is cracking jokes. What was the Duolingo? I think had a funny, it reminded me of, and Kirk, you might get this because I know you're somewhat of a lapsed wrestling fan. I think we both liked wrestling a lot, was the same era, but it was like wrestling was like the most popular thing in the world in the mid to late 90s, early 2000s. And so it was in mainstream a lot. So back then it wasn't uncommon. But then when all of those stars got older and, the two big ones, Steve Austin and The Rock and Hogan and all them retired, it wasn't really, that it was still popular for that, but it wasn't mainstream anymore. And I remember that's when I fell out of it. And I remember like anytime you saw wrestling after that in the mainstream from 2010 to like 2009 to like 2017. It was like something bad happened. Either someone died or something crazy, something bad happened. And I feel like that's kind of what happened here. Like for
Mhm.
basketball to reach the point where you're getting like headlines on like CNN and like places that don't talk about sports are talking about it and joking about it.
I mean, I'm getting interviewed by a Danish like publication tomorrow. Like this is worldwide.
Not a sports
news.
publication, just a
Yes.
Danish. Okay.
A Danish sports publication reached out and wanted to talk to me. I mean, I got like this is worldwide stuff here. Okay. And what the Met like, look, and the chat is so funny about this. I'm enjoying this where it's just like, I don't think I've said really anything critical of Anthony Davis yet because I don't really have super critical takes of him. I mean, last year he was second team All NBA, which interestingly, that was the first time he was All NBA since 1920. So almost a 5-year gap in All NBA. A lot of that's injuries and just weirdness with seasons. But
It's a lot longer than 5 years.
Anthony Davis is a very, very, very good basketball player. I would place him close. I would put him in a top 15 rank because it's at a certain point, production, neither here nor there. Outstanding basketball player. Luka's not yet 25, guys, and it's just it's a different deal. And if you don't like, there's a difference between saying I don't like watching Luka play basketball, which is one of the things that's come out of this in a real way. Like Nico Harrison clearly didn't like seeing Luka play basketball, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean,
it's okay.
That's part of it. Yeah.
It's okay, but it's like everybody that has some sense can look at this trade and go, we understand why the Mavericks reached the trade decision. What they got back for it was not good enough. The end. Like I lost my mind yesterday at a athletic article where different people referenced Nico Harrison as having the Mamba mentality. He's 52 years old. It's a marketing slogan from a guy who was trying to get past a rape case. Like, can we not do this? Like, I don't want to hear how he has the Mamba mentality. Like, it's marketing.
I know.
Like,
I know.
okay, so he took a big risk. Like, he also might never live this down. Is the other option. Like Mavericks fans, what was your summation of this? Like the challenge where Mavericks players are in, or Mavericks fans are in.
Oh yeah, I was saying like I think what makes this trade extra difficult is for the Mavericks to win the trade, Luka pretty much has to fail. And what has Luka given any reason for any Mavericks fans to cheer for his demise?
He's done nothing to us. Like
this is not a LeBron decision. This is not James Harden showing up overweight in training camp to force a trade. This isn't Paul George going on a podcast before, saying why he needs to go to somewhere. He didn't do any of the star disgruntledness before he left the team that would give the fan base some ammo to be like, oh yeah, you know what? Actually, screw Luka. Like, we're gonna win in spite of him. I know, like none of that happened. So it makes it tough that this guy that you've devoted your basketball heart and soul to for about 7 years, you now have to root for him to fail for the Mavericks to come out as winners in this trade. And someone responded like, well, you don't have to do that because like he could still be awesome and not win a championship. It's like, guys, if a player as good as Luka does not win a championship, that is a monumental failure for him, for his career.
For him, yeah. Because he's
he wants it. He'll tell you that too, I bet.
Yeah, that is what it is. And we're gonna have, we'll find a way to decouple from this at some point, but you don't just shed yourself from it overnight. I think we've done a nice job here talking about the game, the new players, the trade, all of it. I find myself frustrated by the attempt of the last couple of days, which is just clearly from Nico, from like words to Colin Cowherd, this thing to Ali LaForge about being concerned for safety. Like it makes me a little nuts is all. It's a deflection of what has happened here, in which case, the base bottom line is for a player of Luka's caliber, they did not get near enough back. And that more than I'm more curious because it's like, I still think, and I've talked with a lot of people about this, I think the decision to trade Luka Doncic, you can reach like okay, I get it.
We can disagree with it, but we can,
I can get
there. Yeah.
Because it's like, he didn't like what had occurred is Luka didn't have the mythical Kobe Bryant workaholic nature that, ironically didn't come to Kobe until after. Like, Kobe was always a worker, but like the maniacal stuff did not happen until after Shaq left. Until after the mid 2000s when the Lakers were terrible. Like, the maniacal Kobe was the later half, like the Pau Gasol. Like, and he's always nuts, but it's like it's like Luka didn't fit.
I mean, hell, it took Dirk a while to get there too.
That's exactly right. I mean, because like players are in their, like a guy in their 20s. We've talked about this, and so bottom line is Luka didn't fit the mythical status in Nico Harrison's weird brain, and they decided to move him. And I'll probably never get over that. Like, I had to sit there with my wife and tell my 8-year-old, and I don't care if you make fun of this. He was crying. Like, Luka's is like, he has like played as Luka since he was a 2-year-old. Half of my videos of him from a little child are him saying he's Luka, and like, and watch me shoot the ball, daddy. Like, that, this shit hurts. And I'm just sick of people who, and it's not very many, it's a loud minority of people who don't understand why this shit matters.
Yeah, absolutely. The community part of it. I mean,
I'm not going to root. Yeah. Like, watching Lakers games against the Mavericks is going to be hard because I'm going to root. Like, I'm going to be rooting for the Mavericks to win, but also being like, holy shit, Luka. Like, that's just the nature of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that's enough of me being insane. Why don't I host here an after party and you go do some other stuff?
Yeah, sounds good. Check our site for post-game content and all the 30 million
oh my God.
trade reactions we have on the
you
site.
Haven't been to our site, guys, and like, this is, if you're a hater, if you love what we do, if you argue with us, the collective we at Mavs Moneyball wrote 45 stories since Saturday night. Like, there is so much stuff on Mavs Moneyball, all sorts of opinions, ranges as reasons, and I think you guys would really enjoy it. Okay, we'll be back soon. You guys stay out here and you can come join the show. I really only want to go about a half hour because I'm really tired still. Yeah, we'll be right back. Everybody listening on the show, appreciate you hanging out. We will talk soon. Where is my correct button? I never remember where any of my assets are. All right, go Mavs. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Mavs fans. This is Pod Mavericks presents Mavs Party. It is a little before 10 o'clock on February 6th. It's a Thursday night. The Dallas Mavericks just defeated the Boston Celtics, and one of the more, I don't know, let's call it like a cathartic win of the year. They're on the road in Boston. Final game of a 5-game road trip, the longest of the season. They came out and really throttled the Celtics. 127 to 120 doesn't really do justice to how much the Mavericks handled the Celtics for the majority of the game here. This is our post-game after show where you can come and talk a little basketball with me. There's been a lot to talk about. I haven't really done one of these since the night Luka was traded. There's lots of things you could yell at me about, and we can talk. I would like to kind of keep this relatively short because I want to go hang out with my wife, but we'll see. We already got 8 people waiting to talk. So I'll let you guys go. I'll try not to talk too much. You can get your takes off. Coming up first is one of my friends. All of you guys are my friends. What am I talking about? Sudar Shan, how are you doing, buddy?
Hey, good morning or good night or whatever it is.
Whatever time it is in this world. How you doing, bud?
I've lost track of whether it's day or night or whatever. This past week has just been one big funk.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So there's not much to talk about this game. I think this is it's one of those variance games where Boston had like sub 50% or like 40% shooting from the field. They made like 13 threes or something like that. And the Mavs were like more than 55% on their field goals. So, I mean, the one thing is, now going forward, it's going to be a lot, at least to me, it's going to be a lot like the 21-22 season and the 22-23 season, where we're going to depend on variance from players more than anything to actually win games.
Okay.
So there's going to be a lot of games where they'll come out and they will shoot 50 or 60% from the field and they'll blow teams out of the water. But then there'll also be a lot of games where they'll shoot like 35 and 40% and they'll look like ass.
Yes, tonight was definitely the latter.
Yeah, I mean, the Cleveland game we can't read into. It's like you said, that was just like a war zone.
Yeah, I mean the Celtics, or I'm sorry, the Cavaliers shot like 65% from three in the first half. It's like, okay, this one's done.
Yeah, it wasn't it. So I think that's the major thing. That's one of the major frustrations about this entire move is that we were sort of building this entire team so that we had a consistent floor and it wasn't so much moving up and down game to game and sort of hoping for something. And it's like with Luka, with Kyrie, with all the pieces around them, you were always guaranteed consistent production. Whereas now we're just back to like hoping and praying that. I mean, we've just traded Tim Hardaway Jr. for Spencer Dinwiddie.
Well, I mean, I gotta see how the actual lineups work.
Yeah.
If AD is hitting shots like at the clip that he can, the offense is going to look great. If he is in a weird spot because his shot comes and goes, the offense is going to look like mud. It's just, I hate to be that reductive because that's probably not fair, but that will feel how things will go in the future, at least for the Mavericks.
No, I mean, that's true. I mean, and here's the thing that I want to say is that I'm not going to root against AD and Max Christie because they're Mavericks players, and I don't think anyone should root against them.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're all collectively rooting for Nico to get fired. That's the main thing out of all of this. Because okay, fine. Say you don't believe in Luka and you pull this move and all of that kind of stuff. It's all the stuff around it that's pissing everyone off.
You mean the way it unfolded more than anything? Yeah.
It's the secret meetings with his I'm not going to call him his lover, but
his friend, like it's his longtime friend, like Rob Pelinka is his friend.
His best friend Rob Pelinka. It's the shitting on Luka with his conditioning concerns, and he's not going to take the Supermax and all of those kind of things. It's all of that kind of stuff that really pisses everyone off, or at least pisses all of us Mavs fans off. Because Luka was our guy, and there's nothing else in that entire thing. So so when they come out saying that they're worried about the safety, there's actually only one person who needs to be concerned about his safety, and that's Nico Harrison.
I am trying not to get myself in trouble on tape, is where I will go with that. So,
and I live halfway across the world. I don't think for me that's so much of an issue.
Fair enough, buddy. You doing okay?
Yeah, and finally, one final point about the so-called the Mamba mentality kind of thing. I mean, I just got the book recently because I'm a book nerd. I love collecting books and I love reading, and that is a glorified coffee table book. It's not anything to do with. I mean, there are a couple of quotes in there. There are a couple of interviews. Yeah, all of that kind of stuff is there, but it's not this mythical kind of this thing. And I have loads of respect for Kobe. I mean, when I went to LA earlier this year, I did pray at the altar of Kobe at his statue and all of those kind of things. That's right. As a sign of respect, nothing else. But I mean, if you were truly about the Mamba mentality, we already had the guy with the Mamba mentality, and you threw him away.
Yeah, Kobe wouldn't have liked the trade.
No.
Kind of a thing. I mean, maybe he would have liked the trade because he's a Lakers guy for life. He would have liked it for the Lakers.
Yeah.
Like that's all right, brother. Thanks so much, man. You got anything else?
Oh yeah, one final thing. The one thing that makes me absolutely sure that this trade is complete ass for us as Mavericks fans is the national media are united in the fact that this is a good deal for the
No,
Mavericks
no, no,
and for the
no.
Lakers.
TV commentators that had played basketball. That's all. It's not.
Mm.
No, you go through like all the shows that I listen to that are kind of national focused. Like everyone's like, "What is this?"
Anyway, I mean, I'm done for this thing. We'll see on Saturday. Saturday is going to be interesting to say the least.
Yeah. All right, man. I'll talk to you.
Take care.
Bye. Oh, Leo, what's up, brother?
Oops, sorry, a little slower on the draw.
Good, man. What's up?
You know, I'm not really sure if I want to talk too much about this game. I'm happy Max Christie played well. I'm happy Najee looks like he came back from comatose. But in general, this is more of like maybe my own kind of way of saying thank you, Kirk.
Mhm.
I am a Mavs fan because I found your podcast after Luka made a 3.
Oh, yeah.
That's honestly how this all worked. I found you. I found Locked On Mavs. I found SJ and Dwight. I found Bibbs and Reese. And to say that my Mavs fandom is going to persist is not something I would think I will ever be able to say is a truth or would be fair to the players by saying I don't ever want to root for this team again. But if I keep rooting, it will not be because some GM ruined my love of basketball, but it will be because of the community that was formed by fans, for fans, and for the love of the game and the players that we have had. Thank you.
Sure thing, buddy. All right. We got Rain coming up next. Rain, how you doing, man?
I'll try to keep it quick. On this game, I didn't watch. I paid attention to the box score, but I am on the box scores. To me, it looks like there is nothing that indicates to me that this was anything more than every single role player pretty much played to the maximum of their ability.
Honestly, Clay got so hot in the first half that the Celtics were sort of out of their minds. Everybody looked really comfortable. The Celtics were slow on the Celtics did not play a good game. And the Mavericks, what they did that was really interesting in this one was they kept the Celtics on their heels through 40 of the 48 minutes. You would have thought coming out of the second half, the Celtics would have punched back, but it was the Mavericks. And it was everybody. I mean, Kyrie kind of finally started hitting shots. Spencer Dinwiddie was big. This was a big team game, man. You're right that the role players showed out, but I would say it wasn't a showing out in the like the luck sense. Like the shots and the process was good. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what I mean, and maybe this is poor taste of me. Anyone not Kyrie or Luka to me is a role player.
Sure, okay, I get it. Right now,
so like Clay, Najee, Exum being good as he's been back. Like it doesn't. I don't mean to say they looked out of their mind or they had like a
Sure.
7 of 7 shooting game. They just played to within their ability on the higher end of it.
Sure. No, I think there's something to that.
This, however, for me, foreshadows that on the back of predominantly health, the record may not be terrible because people are starting to get healthy. The only people out at the moment are going to be what?
Lively's kind of the
Lively
guy
and
that's
AD.
out for a while. Yeah. And AD they expect to play against the Rockets.
So the team's going to be mostly healthy with 2 functional centers again, because even though Lively's going to be out, if we've got AD, he's a very functional center. For whatever you want to say about him, he's a very functional offensive, defensive player.
Yeah, no, he's great.
They're going to win more games, and they're going to be healthy, and it's going to be attributed to specifically they got rid of Luka, they got rid of the guy who was holding up this, or he prevented that, or whatever the case is. And people are going to go, the Mavs won this trade in the short term. The Mavs won the trade. And no matter what they do, they will not be able to convince me that they won this trade. Even if they win a title this year, unless they win it off the back of specifically Anthony Davis' defense, you will not be able to convince me and probably many others that it would not have been possible with Luka.
Look, I'm working on getting these boys to the playoffs first, and then we can talk about other stuff.
Yeah, but exactly that. If they get there it's going to be attributed that they won the trade, but
Well, I mean,
really,
the Lakers are further up the standings.
they are, and
they traded like and the part of the issue and why we're so damn pissed about the pick in the specific is they used the 2031 pick to go get a center. Like before last night, I would have said the Lakers are going to fade because they have a kind of a bitch of a schedule down the pike. But then they go and get big old Mark Williams, who is a very like potent lob threat. And I'm just like, damn it, these guys are just failing up. Drives me crazy.
I'm gonna try to keep Lakers takes away from this, but I don't like that trade.
You don't?
No,
Ooh.
they.
I like what they did because okay, how about this? I like the intention of what they did more because they had a problem and they addressed it.
Okay, this is going to tell you how crazy I've been over the last couple of days.
Sure.
If they had kept those assets in this offseason, they would have had a combined $40 million of expiring contracts for non-terrible players. Yeah. So the combined picks with that, they probably could have got a lot more. This guy seems to have a slew of injury histories. You can't necessarily trust that because he was on a rebooting team.
Yes, which everybody that seems to leave Charlotte is like, thank God you got me out of the hatch.
But also, it's like if you think about it, like SGA used to get injured all the time, and since they've been a competitive team, I get the feeling like if I remember when we sat Luka for like one game and everyone lost their goddamn mind.
SGA used to get sat for whole stretches because of
exactly
like I wouldn't say they're made up, but they were stretched certainly.
That season didn't Dame practically sit out the whole season as a choice after he got a surgery so they could get a better draft pick, and no one also batted an eye at that. Okay, we're rehashing, but the trade for me, he's got too much potential injury. He's not that good defensively. They're going to be relying too much on DFS, and we've seen what happens when you put too much on DFS.
Well, I mean, we get to play him. I mean, we play him in a couple of weeks, like after the trade deadline, or I'm sorry, after All-Star break. So we'll get to see it in a hurry.
Yeah, well, and that's going to be the crazy thing. Rooting for every bucket that a player gets against the Mavericks is going to be the strangest.
Feel very weird. That's right.
I think I had one more thing to say. No, that was pretty much it. Yeah. On the player safety thing, that's no one and no Mavs fan in their right mind is going to be a threat to any of the players. I can see some crazy people, especially with the doxing. Nico Harrison probably has some legitimate concerns, but hey, man, like. So is the dice you roll. You got unhappy fans. Like no one deserves violence, obviously, but like the unhappiness towards the front office is very warranted, and the fact that they're trying to call it crazy basically is not going to do anything to dissuade fans from feeling unhappy with the front office at this point. I foresee them continuing to make blunder after blunder of statements that.
10 of 10 comment from long time. He's not been back for a while, but Dr. Sager in the comments said, wait, did the Mavericks actually win? That's a hilarious drop-in comment. Thank you. But yes, you are right, Rain. I'm very annoyed with it. We'll see. Saturday will be fine. Like there's going to be a bunch of people that are in Victory Plaza, like talking to each other with signs and nothing is going to even happen. I want to go, but who knows?
Yeah. I got to ask a question. Like you mentioned that it's a favor to an agent to trade him. Did we get? With all the trade information, I haven't had a lot of sleep.
It's fine.
Did we give picks or receive picks? Because I was first under the impression we sent out a pick, and now it seems like we.
You mean for the Sixers? So the trade got amended. Josh and I just talked about this. The trade got amended. For some reason, the Mavericks sent a pick initially.
Yes.
They also, but it was 2027 second round pick. That is the Sixers' own pick.
Yeah,
and
it was the last pick.
Today we received back a 2030 second round pick because he failed. I think he failed his physical. So it's like in order to like push the trade through with the understanding that the physical was still failed, meaning he's not going to play for 2-3 weeks at least. His time, like he doesn't have a timetable for return. So that's why that happened.
And this goes back to something else you said earlier. The asset management, they're giving away another second round pick. Yes, maybe as a favor to Quentin Grimes, yada, yada, whatever. Taking back an injured player on a little bit more money that's, yes, cost controlled, whatever. I at this point think Quentin Grimes is a better player than what they're getting back, ignoring the fact that he's injured. To just be sending out the last of the assets they have. And
I don't like the second round pick send, but I do. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. And one last take was, I think Nico might genuinely be an industry plan. If we just think about it, since he's arrived at the Mavericks, almost all of his bad free agency or trades have led to big market NBA teams having franchise players or creating monster rosters. Just gonna leave that one out there. We now got Brunson on the Knicks, big market, and we now got Luke on the Lakers, and KP just became the final hit of the Hydra in Boston. So just saying, I'm just gonna leave that one out there. But
all right, man. Talk soon, okay?
See ya.
All right. My man, Mr. Dang's coming up next. Guys, we got a whole bunch of people waiting to talk. I want to go to bed, but I want all of you to talk. So let's go. Next, guys, we got a whole bunch of people waiting to talk. Whoa, no, feedback. So let's go. Next, guys, we got a whole bunch of people waiting to talk. Whoa, no, feedback. So
yeah, let me turn off this. Is that better?
Yeah, I think you had the YouTube open as well.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can. Can you hear us? No, you can't hear us.
Okay, I can hear you now.
There we go. What's up, brother? How you doing? Feeling good today?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We're getting too much of a time lag here, Doe. I don't know what the deal is. I'm going to punch him, then I'm going to come back, okay? Karam, what's up, man? How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you?
We're good. We're good.
I really like Max Christie. He's pretty cool.
Max Christie is going to be an absolute super fan favorite around these parts. Think it's pretty
I
correct.
agree. Like I told you before, I'm not really going to watch basketball games anymore just because of what's happened.
Right. Okay. Yes, you did tell me that.
No, I have not. I just been looking at the highlights and the box score because, I mean, it's really hard to invest my time on a team that I feel like they did us dirty. I felt, it's hard right now to watch it. But actually, I wanted to get on because I have a conspiracy theory I wanted to share with you.
Sure, let's do it.
All right. So what if the conspiracy theory I have is what if Nico Harrison thought, the only way I can have this perfect lineup for this to even be possible, I have to trade Luka. I'm going to have a conversation with Luka. I'm going to tell Luka, hey, I'm going to trade you. It's only briefly. But just pretend to be mad. Trust me, because if I trade you, I can get Anthony Davis, and then next year I can get KD, which is also the time 2026, 2027, Luka's contract expires, which could also allow Luka to come back and play not only with Kyrie, but KD and AD.
The money of it's impossible.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
The Mavericks are up against the and also I don't know what you would have to promise me outside of the fact that I would also have to give up $100 million because that's the other part. So I do appreciate the
someone
wish.
Responded, that is outrageous.
The wish casting, I very, very significant wish casting. I get it. I get it.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like, what other way can I make it think right? I mean, think about it. I mean, it's hard just to think about, like, I'm just going to throw Luka for AD. I mean, you could have just gotten AD without getting rid of Luka. Like, you could have thrown in players and picks and still have gotten AD.
So there's an axiom called Hanlon's razor, and it's a rule of thumb that suggests that people should consider incompetence over malice. Okay.
Yeah.
He thinks AD is better than Luka. And all these people say, oh, he's a better fit. Better fit at what? They got to the finals. But it's done. I'm not going to do this till the rest of time. We will keep talking. We will figure this out, okay?
Yes. One last question. How do you think the fans are going to react on Saturday?
It depends who's in the arena and who isn't. People are pretty pissed around here, though. I know you're out west right now. And
Oh.
I've been surprised at the level of what the fuck that I've seen in my life. Like just texts from people who are like who don't even really watch basketball. So that's been something.
Yeah.
So
Alrighty. Well, thank you.
sure thing. Talk soon, okay?
Yes, sir. Take care.
All right. Coming up next, we have a set of guns coming on the show. Chris Haley, welcome. What's going on, bub?
Hey, it's been a while, man. Can you hear me?
Do you have a WCW SummerSlam
Yeah, you are
shirt on?
Yeah, Bash at the Beach 96, baby.
It's amazing.
Y'all were talking about wrestling. I'm like, he's going to mention that WCW shirt.
That is incredible. How you doing, buddy? Long time no talk.
Man, that game tonight, if that's one win we needed, was and we're shorthanded by Lively, Washington, and who else are we missing?
That's Dwight Powell, but he comes with the building. So we're never really missing Dwight Powell.
The untradeable Powell.
He's like like the Holy Ghost. He just is around. He fills.
Honestly, have you ever seen a role player that has stuck with a team this long?
No, he's played.
I love Powell as a person, but it's not like he's like good/great. I mean, he's.
I'm pretty sure he's like number 7 all time in Mavs played uniform. He just comes with it. So what do you got, buddy?
Still reeling about the whole thing. It sucks,
Sure.
but we'll just have to. There's nothing we can do about it. We just have to see how AD plays. We'll see how the rest of the season goes and all. I'm excited defense wise, and it looks like we're going to be playing faster on offense, getting in fast break and all. But the defense, we're going to be a hard team to beat, and the fact that we've already beaten OKC twice without Luka, and then you're going to add. I'm saying twice without Luka. I think the first time was.
We beat him 3 times without Luka.
Oh wow!
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, I mean, looks good on that, but I'm just wondering, I'm just looking here because I'm like already forgetting what I was going to say.
It's okay.
But, with the whole Anthony Davis trade kicker thing, so he had to voluntarily lose money.
Yep. And I'm surprised that's if there's a Mavericks leaning conspiracy adjacent thing going on right there, it's that. Because I don't understand why he
or
did
something
that.
just to waive his no trade clause. I mean,
mm-hmm.
Wow, that's crazy that he gave up money. If he would have just declined that, then there would be no trade, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, no, the Mavericks would have taken it. Then it would have put them over because the contracts were pretty okay. It just would have put the Mavericks in a place where they would have been over or something. I don't pay attention to the salary cap because I do not watch basketball for accounting.
Right. And my whole thing with let's say we won the championship against the Celtics, would he still have? I mean, there's no way we'll know, but would he still have gotten traded because the owners are being cheap? I don't know if this whole week I've been thinking Nico's the villain, but really, is it the Adelsons? Is it Dumont?
No. If you go look into how much money these guys make off casinos, they don't care. Like the Mavericks,
like $42 billion or something.
The Mavericks are one of the most profitable sports franchises, and even as a profitable sports franchise, it doesn't come close to making gambling money like this. We talked about this. You and I exchanged some messages. This was a Nico choice. Like it the other thing it's like insane about this, like the Mavericks valuation as a franchise sunk also when they traded Luka.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's like, you don't want to pay this guy $300 million, but then the franchise valuation probably sank 500.
My thing is that game we played against on January 9th against the Lakers at home. So this whole coffee shop discussion with Nico and Rob probably happened around then.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't they just, if they were actually going to do this, just do it then? We've been missing Luka for like 6 weeks. We could have had Anthony Davis.
Well, I mean, this is why I think Nico has been so confused about the reception, is because he thought he did something. And so there's been some speculation, and this is granted, this is speculation. I'll talk about what's speculation, what's reporting. What's speculation is that Nico might have asked for AD last year for Kyrie, and they said no for kind of obvious reasons. Then I think at a certain point, what's happened here is they went back with Luka and with the offer, and I should just say Nico Harrison. Nico Harrison went back with the offer of Luka, and instead of saying yes immediately, which was probably what Rob Pelinka's brain said to do, it was to string it out over time. Because
that worked on their favor. So they got
the offer was bigger initially. It was Max Christie and Dalton Connect and 2029 first round pick and 2031 first round pick. I think we would all still be really pissed had that happened. but I think we would have at least talked a little bit about something. And so my understanding from there is then Pelinka came back and used the same logic as to why Nico wanted to trade Luka to begin with, which was essentially he's a risky investment against him to whittle the trade down to where we ended up.
This has been racing in my head all week. Like,
well, Nico consulted no one. He consulted no one. He told Patrick Dumont, but the thing that the Mavericks fans need to acknowledge is Mark Cuban sort of broke our brains as to what we expect of owners. If you're in a management situation and you're employing someone to do something for you, so Patrick Dumont is employing Nico Harrison to make basketball decisions. If you don't agree with the decision of that magnitude, i.e. trade Luka Doncic, then you have to fire Nico because that's a franchise-altering thing, okay? And as a result, I think he trusts his expert. Now, I don't think Nico Harrison is an expert. That's what's important here. But he is paid to be the expert. And so Dumont went along with this because that's what his expert says.
But
does that make sense?
Doesn't Cuban own like 34% of the Mavericks? I mean,
he owns 27%. And at any point, this is very important, Chris. This will shock you because I'd learned this because I didn't really pay too much attention to the agreement. The Adelsons at any point in the next 3 years can whittle his 27% ownership stake down to 7% for any reason. They can just buy it from him. So he's essentially a very well compensated, because he gets parts of the Mavericks profits, season ticket holder. What Mark Cuban has to say does not matter. Now, you have been a really long-term Mavericks fan. At one point or another, Ross Perot sued Mark Cuban when he was a minority owner. Ross Perot Jr. did. And it got really messy. There's nothing a minority owner can do. Cuban knows this. And that's why I don't really like involving him in this, other than to say, well, you hired Nico to begin with.
Yeah, he wasn't most likely notified. The trade happened and he found out. And my thing is just confusing how these owners didn't they go to the games last year during the playoffs? I mean, don't they see how marketable and how much money Luka's making the franchise?
But if you pay that guy to do a certain thing and he makes a recommendation of that magnitude, I think you either have to go along with it or you have to fire him.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. It sucks.
It's going to eat it. It's going to eat at you for a while. I get it. I get it because it's just
all week. But you know what? This is basketball. We still have a good team. It sucks that our window is shortened, but what can you do? None of us can do anything about it. I'm going to support the Mavs no matter what. As long as the Lakers aren't going against the Mavs in the playoffs, I'll root for Luka. But I'm always going to be a hardcore Mavs fan. But this does suck. But just have to move on from it. But
all right, man.
Good win tonight.
That is a good win. I'm going to try to bring up Doe again here. But before I do so, I want to at least acknowledge one more thing. So I'm just going to kind of keep repeating this. This is not me being lectury. This is just me learning things and passing them along to you. There's been kind of the fairly regular refrain of, are the Mavericks going to move to Las Vegas? No. The Adelsons are based in Las Vegas, but they don't own any casinos in Las Vegas, and they are relocating out of Las Vegas. Las Vegas is not important to them at all. Texas casino money and Texas gambling is what is important to them moving forward, at least in America. All right, coming up, we're going to try Mr. Doe again. We'll see if we can get the echoes handled.
Hey, Kurt.
How are we doing?
Oh, man. It feels like a funeral.
We can hear you, though. That's good.
Yeah.
So you sound good.
Yeah, it feels like a funeral just happened, and you're just trying to, remember the good times as much as you can. And it's tough because, they draw a line in my heart between Luka and the Mavs.
Yeah.
But the way things went down, I feel like Luka was betrayed because the management didn't have the cojones to confront Luka with the issues they had with him. And they were legitimate issues about him, overplaying, in the offseason, not letting his body heal, not coming into shape. But to not have a sit-down talk with him to see if he was going to be able to shape up or not sign the Supermax, and then doing the best thing possible for the organization, if you don't think it's truly the case, is just shop the freaking deal because Pelinka played chess while Nico played marbles.
Yeah.
This is like the Herschel Walker trade.
Yep.
This was a devastating trade. It made me want to say, Adam Silver, why did you let this happen? But I'm mad at the Adelsons for not understanding the heartbeat of this town, and I'm mad at Dumont.
Yeah.
You know, because Luka was way more about the joy that he brought and the way that he played the game. You know, the referee crap I didn't like. You know, some of the stuff that he did, you know, not being in shape, I didn't like. But overall, the guy's got heart. And you think about it, how many killers in the game that you would trust at the end of any NBA game to not only hit the game-winning shot, but make the right play with the right pass play toward the end of the game and trusting his teammates.
Sure.
You know, I feel betrayed by the organization, and the edge goes to Luka. I'm a Luka fan. You know, I'm a Mavericks rooter.
Yeah, but I mean, look, man, I sort of don't believe you. You've been watching this team for 40 years, right?
Yeah.
But this is frustrating, and you're allowed to, and I told Josh this in our last show. I said you're allowed to feel both these things at once. And I think there's a little something to what Nico Harrison has to say about people coming back if we start winning. But, you know, I'm seeing all these quotes. There's all these post-game quotes right now where talking about the environment Saturday at the game. And it's like, well, fans are allowed to boo. And it's like the fans aren't booing Klay Thompson. They're not booing Jason Kidd.
No.
They're not booing Anthony Davis. They're booing Nico fucking Harrison. And we need to get that, like, I'm sorry, him, like, it feels like he's hiding behind players and shit like this. And, like, say it with your chest, man. Don't get up and make stupid jokes and expect people to forgive you for a thing that you did in the dead of night while trading with your friend while screwing the Mavericks to a certain extent.
Be accountable. He needs to be accountable.
That's right.
You
And to his credit, he has said this is all him. And so that's why I get a little grumpy with these conspiracy theory adjacent items, because the guys tell, like, when people tell you who they are, believe them. That's all. That's all. And look, I'm not calling you out because I just, like, look, you love the Mavs. They hurt you too much to really truly divest your heart from them. I don't believe you.
And I got half a season court passes, and right now I'm not in the mood to go on any of the games.
I feel that, man. Well, you got anything else for us?
No, man. It's just more mourning right now. I'm glad they won, though. It's a good thing is they're showing some heart.
That's true.
And if it was before the season, I wouldn't have any hope in any of the games if Luka wasn't in the lineup. You know, so they've made some progress, but man, operating like this in a total vacuum. Where Dumont, where are you? Adelson's, where are you?
Well, I mean, here's the irony, man. For years, you came on this show. I complained openly about wanting a GM to be able to operate with some autonomy and have Cuban out of the picture because Cuban muddied the waters. That's what we got here. I just don't like the end result. And it sucks.
And I mean, he's still less than 50-50 on trades if you include Jalen Brunson. You know? Yeah,
his track record, when you look at it big picture, is high risk, high reward. Is what I'll say.
Definitely. And it's just, he was so smug at the press conference. I just wanted to punch him in the face, you know? It's just
There's something else there where if you watch him how he behaves and stuff, it feels like he's putting a little bit of show.
You know, I just wish he could acknowledge that, you know, it was a tough loss, but he thought it was the right thing to do for the organization.
Yeah.
You know, it was just too smug. Like, he's so much smarter than the rest of the room.
Yeah. No, I hate that.
Anyways, thanks, Kurt. I appreciate
Talk soon, okay?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Take
Coming
care,
up
buddy.
next, my man Brandon. How you doing today, bub?
Kirk, I'm doing well. How you doing?
I'm okay. Day by day.
Day by day. Hey, I'm like him. I'm an old head, so I hate telling these old stories, but man, that's how it felt when Mark Aguirre left.
Okay.
God.
I like a Mark Aguirre reference around these parts.
Kirk, I'm gonna just tell you, like, really briefly, man. That team was good. I mean,
which year was this?
That's the '87 year.
Oh, I was 4 to age yourself, but I understand that team was the only, maybe the Houston Rockets were the only true Western Conference competitors to the Lakers at that point in time.
And remember, that's when they had good teams with good, okay players. You know, Seattle had Alden Polynice and Michael Cage, but Dallas had, you know, think about this: Dallas Schiff, Hall of Famer, Sam Perkins, Hall of Famer. Rondo Blackman should be a Hall of Famer. Derek Harper, he's a great. They had all these guys. Roy Tarpley, if he wouldn't have went the direction that he would have went, Hall of Famer. But man, that dude Mark Aguirre, he was the truth. And when he left, that's when everything he was Luka. He was Luka light, I guess you could say. He kept that team, but after he left, Sam Perkins left, Dallas Strength left. I think he went to the Supersonics, and then he went to the Pacers. Harp left. He went to the Knicks. Rondo Blackman left. Credit to Mark Davis. He was the only one that kind of stayed around. They had Donaldson. He ended up leaving, and a couple of guys went to the Bulls. But he was that glue, and I was like, man, and that team never really recovered.
Oh, never. I mean, that set them down a path to destruction because the 90s were bleak.
And those players, they wasn't getting these big contracts. They were out to win, so they were staying with their teams.
Mm-hmm.
And people weren't going to Dallas. They weren't like this supermarket that people.
Well, it's so funny too, and this, and I don't know if the youth of the chat will know this. The trades the Mavericks pulled off in the 80s, in the middle of the 80s, leading up to this, resulted in the Stepien rule getting created, which is why we can't trade draft picks for more in consecutive years, because the Cleveland owner traded with the Mavericks like over and over and over. Like it was theft. And the Mavericks benefited from it. And here, like 40 years later, I'm looking at it going, is this karmic comeuppance for stuff that we did in the past life as a team? I don't know.
I kind of wonder how Mark Price would have been on that team if he would have stayed, because he was one of those that kind of went to Cleveland that the Mavs had drafted but ended up going over there. But my point is, I mean, I've seen it before. Not just that, but just think about all of the good players. Like, dude, a lot of people didn't like Monte Ellis. So I was like, that dude is a scoring machine. You can't just you got to try to pull him back in. And it's been players that Dallas kind of had opportunity to keep, but they never did really keep. Yep. Like after the championship team with Tyson, that was like the second time when I went through. Like, you just can't let Tyson just walk for nothing. Right. And he just up and just walked. And I'm like, once again, they climbed the mountain and they fell. Think about this, for those 6 years or however long, they didn't do anything. They went through that center position was terrible.
It's so great.
Terrible. That guard position was terrible. And so after a while, they were finally able to get a guard. And now that they finally kind of got the big position figured out, I mean, it's been a long time. It's been a long, I guess, 40 years or whatever. But you just got to roll with the punches, man. That's how it is. I mean, just think about the Browns fans. Those guys are out there regardless of, they're rooting for the jersey, and that's kind of how I am. But on the basketball side, though, man, I'm just looking at it. I'm like, this is one of the teams. I mean, if you were to think about it from a positive standpoint, the Mavericks can run 10 deep. If you think about their starting lineup and then plus what they got coming off of the bench, if you want to throw Exum in there, probably 11 deep. If you think Exum could be a contributor, I'm not counting Powell or
I sort of need Exum to be a contributor because I don't think they have enough steady ball handling. Because Exum is a playmaking guard, whereas Spencer Spencer can, but I think his inclination is to shoot.
Being that you can either have Spencer as your number 2 guard or Exum as your number 2 guard, that's kind of a good problem. But like somebody to take the ball out of Spencer's hand, if he's just jacking, take him out and put Exum in. Somebody that's kind of more able to push the ball down the court. But I think that's a good position. If anything, they got 2 players. They got somebody that could come in and play that stretch 4, and then Chrissy could come in. I don't know if he's a combo guard or a point guard. I understand he's a shooting guard, but somebody that could come in and then kind of pick up minutes when those guys need it. That's going to be an upside. But moving forward, the players, to me, I feel like them thinking more about where they are on the records as opposed to, maybe what position they could be in is more important, because at West is tough. I mean, if you look at the top, those guys are young and they're dangerous. You know what I mean? I never would have thought Memphis would be at that number 2 spot. Houston, I kind of knew it because they're kind of like the Astros. They've been building slowly that franchise for a while, and now they're finally at the point where they're like the Astros. They're ready to get them one. But that West is so young and so deep and just so talented, and nobody's going to let off the gas. And so, to me, I think the fans, should really focus on, the future of the Mavericks, because even though this was a terrible situation, I mean, the West isn't going to stop. It's going to only get younger, and it's going to get better. So I'm just hopeful that the product out there is good. And just one more thing, I'm like wondering, do you think that they're going to use AD kind of how they wanted to use KP?
I can't wait to see how this goes because he insists that he wants to play 4, but we have years of data that he is best as a 5. Kid wants him to play 4 though. So like in terms of basketball, different stuff. So it's like, no matter how you feel about the trade or whatnot, we went from having one kind of basketball to talk about to having a whole bunch of different stuff, which we're going to have to see the Mavericks suss out over the next 30 games.
They say all the time is one ball, but what's going to be different if he wants to play that 4, like the Dallas style of basketball? He's going to have to play around the free throw line. It's not going to be where he's going to play on that baseline down.
No, and teams win by 3s, and I think that vexes Jason Kidd. Like I think it actively insults him when there's stuff like that happening.
I just don't see how they're going to. I don't know how they're going to pull him out to that high post. It'll be interesting to see how
I
he's
said
doing.
this earlier that Kid or that Lively when he is healthy and AD can make 3s. They just don't. They don't shoot a lot of them. I mean, when the Lakers won the title, AD shot 40% from 3. Yeah. And then he worked with a trainer named Lethal Shooter that in my kind of humble, uninformed opinion, like broke his damn shot. Mm-hmm. But when AD's shot is right, he's kind of unstoppable. It's just it comes and goes is the challenge.
I'm sorry, Kirk. I just got one more thing. Do you think that they're developing Lively correctly? It seems like they're asking him to do a lot, but they're not showing him how to do one good thing. He can do a lot of things, but he's not able to do one thing well. A lot of that is, to me, is raw talent. Like you were saying, he can shoot the 3, but they want him to shoot the 3, play good defense, rebound. They want him to do all of this stuff. It seems like they're asking him to do a lot, kind of like Wimby, but he's not really focusing in on just.
Well, when he gets back, his role is going to be so different because I think the Mavericks might run, a pick and roll heavy offense, but it won't be quite as pick and roll heavy. So maybe he'll get the opportunity to operate out of different ways. I'm curious. There's a lot there. It's a fun basketball discussion.
It is, and just closing out, you were talking about Christie, and to me, I'm like maybe they could be the Josh Howard, Marquise Daniels lineup again. Him and PJ Washington, if they kind of get a chance to gel with each other.
See, yeah, they have like these interesting small ballish options, and I think Kid doesn't want to play small ball, but they're there, man. That's for certain.
Yeah.
All right, bud. Talk soon. Thanks so much. Good to talk to you.
See you.
All right, my friend Zach's coming up next. Zach, welcome to the show. Long time.
Hey, Kirk. How's it going?
It's good. What's going on?
I'm in a much more stable mindset than last time I talked to you Saturday night. Just wanted to get some initial thoughts. I'm not going to vent too much about Nico, but so one, I haven't decided if I'm going to stay like a committed Mavs fan. I've been one for 20 years, and it's really. I always think about how much I love the community, and I'm like, I'm not going to not watch Kirk's show because Nico Harrison made a dumb move. Like that just feels really shitty. It's just tough to trust the team, if I'm being honest. So I think to everybody who reads my tweets and is like, why is he on the show? I'm still trying to figure out where I'm at actually as a fan. But I couldn't help when I checked the score at halftime and I see that the Mavs are winning. It's like an involuntary happiness response.
Yes. And I think that's good. It's
and like
good.
I was mad. I was happy because I'm like, I want bad things to happen to this team. They were like, I can't help it that I was happy to see them winning when I've just been sulking the last 5 days. So I just wanted to kind of share that weird experience with you of
the dichotomy of man.
Yeah. So then I ended up watching the second half, and just to talk some straight ball here, not like I wasn't trying to focus on the emotion or anything. I obviously really like Christie. I like the action, the activity. I think it's really amazing for someone like that to be so with it and versatile just as a 21-year-old. Mm-hmm. I think that's, you think about what we thought about Josh Green and Omax. I think Christie's really promising. I'm curious, though, what you think the ceiling is for a team like this in the playoffs with everybody healthy, because I think this defense could be really good, but Kyrie really got suffocated a couple times by those big bodies on the perimeter. And I just don't know what the release valve would be for this team in that scenario. And if the defensive surplus we're getting with these new guys can balance out that lack of offensive versatility.
I mean, that's sort of the hope, and you got to hope that they score off turnovers and things like that. And they're not, if they're not getting bogged down. The half court is where I get a little worrisome. But I think I'm interested to see how the problems work themselves out, or don't.
Do you think this team can make the finals or no? No, right?
No, but that's not an insult. It's making the finals is hard. They're a 10 seed right now. Could my opinion change over the next 20 games? Absolutely. But they just have such a tough road to hoe. And I know, and I've actually seen some interesting. It's like, this is where the Mavericks were at this point in 2022 and 2024. And like, there's a lot of comparable points. It worries me. It worries me. I think that they're just a little bit too far behind the eight ball, but I think they're really relying on a healthy Kyrie, and we've gotten, let's see here, B-ball reference, Kyrie Irving. It just comes up in my chat. That's how often I look at Kyrie Irving's basketball reference page. He's played 40, and the Mavericks are what? So he's missed 12 games, 13 games so far. Yeah, I think that's right. How many games have we played? 27 and 25, I think, is what the Mavericks are. 25, 52 games so far. If let's just assume that's right. I think that's right. So he's missed 12 games. I think you have to book in just historically. Kyrie has played fewer. He played 58 games last year. He played 60 the season before. You just kind of got to, like, a guy at his age and his size, I think you have to book games missed. Maybe not due to injury, but something. And so how do they play in those games? Because to me, he's a primary driver of the offense that's sort of limited. So that's kind of the questions that I have. Can they survive this stuff with Kyrie, playing 8 of 10 instead of all 10, that sort of thing?
Sure. No, that's fair. I thought Kid's pregame comments were interesting. The more I hear Kid talk, it makes me think, and I think you and Josh were maybe talking about this earlier, or maybe it was a different podcast.
Sure.
Do you really think Kid had no idea that the trade discussions were going on?
Good question. I think Kid might have incepted it. I think he is a masterful manipulator, but I don't think that Kid was involved in the actual machinations of the trade. No, I think that he might have helped put the idea in Kid's head and Nico's head.
Really? Okay.
I do. Yeah, I do. Because he coached AD. He values big men. He values defense. Like from the very beginning.
And I agree with that. But the machinations of, do you think Kid was aware that Luka would have been on the table for AD?
Yes. Yes, absolutely yes. But wow. I don't think that he knew of this. I don't think he knew that he went and talked to Rob Pelinka. Yeah, Robert Herman is talking in the chat. He goes, his body language says he's surprised. And I'll tell you this, Robert and Zach, all my Bucks fans friends are like, this has Kid's fingerprints all over it. Some of the stuff Kid did with the Bucks in terms of manipulation, like I have a friend who worked for the Bucks, and it's there's just some Kid might have, I think Kid's gotten better about his using and displaying his sort of sociopathic tendencies. So, but I'll just say that I really don't think that when it, the coffee shop stuff, the reporting on this was very, very detailed. And I don't and the other thing is Nico seems incapable of lying.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I get that gist. Yeah.
So,
I guess last point on that, I want to be my fandom's always going to be a little broken because of this.
Mm-hmm.
What is the argument for not moving on from this team when every fiber, everything in my head's just slowly separate yourself from this team? What's the argument for not, when you can't trust the ownership, can't trust the management, can't trust the coaching, because it's just such a colossal fumble of a generational talent. I really have a tough time trusting anybody. And because of that, it seems difficult to like pour myself in as a fan as I have the last 20
Well,
years.
I'm looking forward to reading Tim McMahon's book. Like, you see all the assholes on Twitter who's like, "You were never nice to Luka," and it's like that's not Tim's job. Tim
Yeah.
McMahon has written a whole book on how the Mavericks have kept and now moved on from Luka, and I'm fascinated to read it because my outsider opinion is that the Mavericks gave up the car keys way too early to Luka, and as a result, some bad habits were formed that they then were never able to move back from. Because I just can't believe no one ever was like, Luka, you have to play at 245. You can't play at 260. I can't, and that kind of seems like what happened, where it's like there was all this basically like high school girl shit surrounding Luka, where they were not ever truly confronting him because they were afraid of pissing him off.
Really?
And this is just my take. That it's just like what I said earlier about the you know, we got to make sure that nobody is attacking players, and you know, or like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you're so scared to have a conversation, then everything you fear might come to pass anyways. Like, sometimes you have to address problems like adults, and he's a professional basketball player. And I just sort of feel that, and I know this was the case under Carlisle, they felt like they couldn't talk to him now. And that's why Kidd was such a different, like a change of pace, because Kidd and Luka definitely had a relationship. But it's just like, if you're to the point to where you really feel he can't take care of himself and you have to trade him, I still think they just sort of made up their minds, and then they found a reasonable thing after the fact.
Well, that's where, you know, on that note, and this is my last thing, because I know you got other people to move on to. I really echo your sentiment about, what were you saying? Like, don't mistake malice for
It's a thing called Hanlon's razor.
Okay. Yeah. That's what you tweeted about earlier.
Don't mistake being stupid for being mean.
Well, the more I think about it, if you're operating the premise that Nico doesn't know what he's doing and his valuation's off, it actually makes a lot of sense what he's saying. I didn't want it to get out, you know, that we're trading him. I like AD. And so, and because in my head, it's like the Lakers don't have the assets for Luka. So you just say, hey, we want all of the assets. Like, we already know we're selling it short. Give us all the assets. You're already getting him 50 cents on the dollar. Because I think all those assets we could have gotten were maybe 50 cents on the dollar. Because AD is still an amazing player. Like, I think people are forgetting how good Anthony Davis is. Like, Anthony Davis is probably worth like 3 first-round picks as a talent. But it actually makes too much sense that Nico then got talked out of that because he couldn't anchor on a higher price. So just wanted to echo that.
Sure.
I'm actually starting to believe that Nico just doesn't know what he's doing.
That's right.
Anyway, thanks, Kirk. Very
sure, man. Talk soon. Appreciate you coming up. All right. Now we have Ash, who's waited patiently. Ash was on a few nights ago before the Luka trade and kept me sane on a night when no one wanted to talk to me. How you doing, Ash?
Kirk Henderson, good to see you, bro.
Good to see you too. What's going on?
So much for 30 minutes, huh?
Sorry, man. Well, I mean, look, you guys all want to talk, and I don't want to dissuade people from doing this because you guys are what keep my show alive.
Oh, it's nice of you. Yeah, I missed your post-game recap tonight, so forgive me in advance if I say anything that...
No, it's fine.
So, you know, PJ missed the last 2 games because he had a baby boy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Good for him. Congratulations, PJ. You're in for a world of confusion.
You know, before the game tonight, I thought we had a 0% chance of winning.
Me too.
So I'm in an incredibly good mood because of it.
Good way to kind of sort of close out the week, yeah?
Yeah. Do you think I noticed Jaden Hardy was benched again. Do you think Jason Kidd just gave up on him, or?
I think right now he's trying other guys, and I think he'll circle back to him. Our guard depth is not good enough to basically say these guys are going to play for the rest of the year, because these guys run in and out of they don't play well sometimes. I mean, we saw it in the postseason last year when Dante Exum kind of became a tortoise and Jaden Hardy came out of his shell. So I think he'll get another chance. I mean, Hardy drives me crazy, but his main asset that I think really is an asset, even though it drives me nuts, is he has insane confidence. So we'll see how he goes.
Yeah, I like his confidence too. I was thinking maybe Jason Kidd is just prioritizing defense
Yes.
To what Nico was saying. So I don't know.
Yeah, I absolutely think that's the case. And Hardy can't pay attention on defense. He's bad.
It's nice to have Exum back.
It is, and he looks good. He looked confident tonight, which was pleasing.
Yeah, I miss his game.
Yep, I like watching him too.
I noticed Clay, he's always so off and on. Like once he turns it on, he's going, and then all of a sudden, abruptly, it's over.
Yep.
Kind of like what happened in the second half tonight. At least he's not forcing threes, because that always bugs me when he does that.
Yes.
I just wish he would just stay aggressive though and keep it flowing. That'd be amazing.
We'll see. I'm looking forward to them trying.
And they didn't play Kyler Kelly today too,
which I'm okay with. Kyler's not long for this team, but he did his small part, and we're grateful for him for that.
I'm actually relieved they did not trade for Durant, because I'm a big PJ and Gafford fan. I think those guys are underrated. Durant's 36.
Keep an eye on that towards the summer, though. I will say that it's easier to make player transactions during the offseason. The rules are slightly different. And I know it was reported today the Mavericks made a very hard push for Durant. So but that's later, and we don't got to worry about it right now.
Huh. Yeah, I have at this point I have absolutely no expectations. I'm not even sure Kyrie's going to stay.
It could be the offseason ahead is very interesting.
Yeah. In a few weeks, I think everything that's happened so far is leading up to February 25th, when the Mavs play in LA.
Should be a fun one.
Yeah, that's I'm gonna be so excited to watch that game because AD's back and so is Luka. It's just gonna be interesting to watch.
That's right. Well, got anything else for us?
That's all I got, brother.
All right, talk soon. This was a good comment from Nico Harrison burner account. Kirk, I want to see you post up Kyler Kelly at the local rec center. My game was I was a big guy, but I played with a 7-footer, so I never really got to post up past like the 8th grade. So I played in like the short corner in the high post and passed to the tall guy, so he would block the shit out of me. Ben, you're going to close us out. Ben, what's going on? Hit that unmute button for us, and it'll bring you on.
All right. Can you hear me?
You sound good.
Well, Kirk, it's an honor. I was also here for the Detroit game Friday. And I was like, yeah, man, I think the guys are going to pull it together, and Luka's going to come back in a week or so, and yeah, obviously. So that kind of sucks to be on either side of that. I guess when it comes to the malice or incompetence thing, right? Like those are not mutually exclusive concepts, right?
I don't think so. No.
and so I think you can get into the details of, because Nico at the very least was incompetent. We know that for a fact. Period. Whether there was conspiracy or whatever doesn't really matter, but we know that. We know that for sure. We know that Dumont also, right? Because he approved it. If it was only those two guys and that's it, those are both incompetent people in terms of their fan bases, right? Like that's, and I'm not. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
Let me phrase it like this. I've asked around very specifically. I don't know this, but I believe this. I don't think Nico had to ask for Dumont's sign off.
I don't think so either.
So I think
that's my belief.
Yeah, I think Dumont, silence is acquiescence. Okay.
Yeah.
And my lawyer wife says that to me whenever I'm acting like an idiot, or whenever I'm not saying anything at all, whenever she's making a strong argument. And So it's like in that way where it's just like a lot of people are like, how come he didn't stop it? And it's like, well, if he stopped it by that point, he probably should not employ Nico. You know what I mean?
Right. That's a lot of paperwork, man. You know what I mean?
And people don't understand that because we've just used to the Mark Cuban making all the final calls, but it's like this is how Neil O'Shea operated out of Portland for years. It's fairly common actually. Like I would say like a lot of owners like they're made aware of things but it's this is a little different. So anyway,
Mark Cuban would have turned it into like a hero moment. Like he would have taken in public, like shamed him, thrown him out.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Whether or not Kid was new or not, I don't know. I don't think there's any way to know until people write books later or whatever. But what I think the malice part, I think, comes more from Pelinka, and I'm going to throw out some wish casting here on Luka and the Lakers, because he knows that Pelinka, greased the wheels for this to happen, obviously, and he knows that, like, I guess the early reporting was that Pelinka wasn't allowed to ask Luka about extending with the Lakers, or re-signing with the Lakers. Sorry. And whatever. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't think Luka trusts this guy any more than he trusts Nico Harrison at this point. Going forward, just in terms of the kind of dude he is. Now, I think for now Luka's he's got to do what he's got to do, and he's there, and he might be happy, and that could be great. But he holds all the cards. He can walk at the end of next season if he wants. And he may not want to rebuild in LA instead of going and dunking 5 championships in a row with Wembanyama in San Antonio. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So that's that. Whatever. But I don't know, man. Like everybody freaking out. I don't know. I hope people can like reconcile because I've reached the acceptance phase, I guess. I've been a fan since the early '90s, since I was like 10. Nobody got my joke that I made about the trade where I was like, the only way this trade makes sense is if Luka and Kyrie were both sleeping with Tony Braxton.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's only for the real Mavs fans, that joke. But I don't know. I guess for me, I love Luka. I'm a bigger Luka fan now, by a massive magnitude. Like I hope he goes fucking Super Saiyan, like just on the whole league, just destroys. And I'm still a Mavs fan too, So I'm not gonna. I unfortunately have decided not to spend any money on being a Mavs fan. That's my corner of the world. Like I'll just watch the games after the fact or whatever until I am not as butthurt. I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
But I do look forward to the potential of like even this season, like what happens if like the Mavs surge a little bit, Lakers kind of tread water, 4-5 matchup, Lakers Mavs in the first round or even in the second round, like. You know what I mean?
I do.
That could be amazing. And in terms of like earlier, you and Josh were talking about wrestling, and like now that I've accepted it, I can lean into the soap opera shit, and just be like, look, he's a villain now. Like he pulled the mask off, like it's like,
right.
I can, in an abstract way, I can look at it like that, and I'm still sad about Luka because that's the thing. There's two kinds of fans, I think. And people are fighting. These two kinds of fans are fighting. I don't think they should if they're all Mavs fans. And there's people that are like winning is everything, and there's people who are like winning is not everything.
Right.
There are other things, and when you're a culture like Mark Cuban built, basically, the Dirk era, and you value that, and you hear this when you read a lot of comments on Facebook and stuff. All the European guys, they're like, "Hey, I don't think you'll understand how." Something was taken from Luka that can never be that kind of success that he was hoping for. He can never get that was taken from him in this process, and that's
right.
And so that kind of fan that appreciates things that way. Look, I mean, we're going to be bummed out forever. There's nothing, but then there's people that are like, well, I just want my team to win, and it's not right or wrong. You can tell which side I'm on. I want my Luka.
Yeah.
Because I think we were all looking forward to that.
I mean, if he goes and does something really special, it's what Josh said. Like, rooting against Luka is not something except for there's a segment of Mavs fans who absolutely hated him. And that's, everybody else is like wants the best for him.
Right. Well, even within those fans, it's like Venn diagrams or something, it's like there's still the people that are just like, well, winning is the most important thing versus like doing it this way is better, because obviously Dirk's championship would have never happened if Nico was our,
That's right.
It would have never. Maybe Shaq and Nash would have rattled one off,
right?
Right after 2006 or whatever. But would that have been as good? Absolutely not. We know that from experience. So whatever. We're all fans.
That's right.
Everybody fan how you want to fan. As far as the game tonight, Max Christie does look great. I'm excited to see that guy play. Crazy long arms. He's got really good footwork. He can get in front of guys very fast on the defensive end. That's something that he's, I think, better than Grimes at, because he's got longer legs and he's just as fast. He looks really, really good. But yeah, you can see that tonight was the proof of concept, even without AD and PJ going forward for the team. You just got to worry about Kyrie's bulging discs in his back or whatever. So that's the game we're playing right now, guys. It's this year or next year. I mean, best case scenario, it's like Mavs and Lakers just have like every time they face off, it's amazing. They face off in the playoffs every year, and it's crazy. I mean, it's entertaining. That's all we can hope for now. And
that's right.
So let's do it.
Well, good finish to this show, Ben. Thanks so much.
All right, man. Y'all have a good one.
All right. So don't know how Saturday's going to go. Daytime game. We'll obviously record stuff, but I don't want to commit to when right now. Thanks so much for hanging out. 2-hour show. My wife's going to be pissed. Outstanding. Go Mavs.